indie games killed the AAA industry.
How did Halo go from this to this?
Oh yeah.
And how can a game made by one dude in his bedroom have a larger player base than Halo, Call of
Bro, there's no... Was Halo really made from like one dude in his basement at like one point? Holy, I did not know that.
Duty, and Battlefield combined? To answer these questions, we first need to understand why AAA studios have taken all of their desire to make fun games
Don't you guys have cell phones?
and just thrown it out the window.
Did you guys not have phones?
From what I found, it all started a few decades back when the video game industry really became mainstream with the release of Space Invaders. This game took the world by storm and really put video games on the map. See, companies were scrambling to get a piece of the growing video game industry.
Oh, there goes
and
Pac-Man.
the man who kicked everything off was Space Invaders' only developer, Tomohiro Nishikado. See, the thing is, back in the 70s and early 80s, most games were made by one or a few developers. You couldn't pack much into a whopping 4 kilobyte game cartridge after all. So
Yeah.
games were simple in design, but because developers couldn't lean on graphics or music to attract a lot of players, games developed at this time really had to be fun. And Tomohiro understood this perfectly. In an interview a few years ago, Tomohiro even had this to say: "Yes, I developed Space Invaders by myself. In
Space
those days,
Invaders.
that was the
Fucking
standard
Halo.
for games to be made by one person. Today, however, that work in development is so divided and specialized that one person can't really see the whole picture. And in that sense, I think developers need to go back to the beginning." Although Tomohiro doesn't fully explain what he means by beginning, what I interpret his words to mean is to get back to where each team member understands the vision of the game they are working to create. The video game industry wouldn't be the same without Tomohiro, and I believe he's a huge reason why gaming is what it is today. Space Invaders captivated millions around the world, causing people to fall in love with video games and ushering in the golden age of the AAA game. Over the next few years, technology for making games improved drastically, and games became more sophisticated, requiring more people for development. You couldn't just make a game on your own anymore. The industry was maturing, and teams needed all sorts of talent and specialization to make games work. Game studios began expanding at an incredible rate to create more advanced games. So as the
Which, for the most part, you know, talking about the golden age or whatever, I think is fine. It was awesome.
80s and 90s progressed, we see less and less solo developers like Tomohiro producing these great games. Bungie is a great example of this. They only had 3 employees in the early 90s, and together the 3 of them went on to create a few successful games: Operation Desert Storm, Minotaur the Labyrinth of Crete, and Pathways into Darkness. But they were relatively small and simple. A few more
my
employees
God.
were added over the years, and the company
Bro, I thought for a second I was watching like Paper Mario.
grew. Most of the employees were college students with nothing but the desire to make fun games, probably inspired by developers like Tomohiro. As Chris Butcher put it,
The culture of Bungie is pretty simple. There's a bunch of college kids who wanted to drink beer and eat pizza and like do amazing cool stuff in their basements.
10 years after the launch of Bungie, 40 people were doing just that.
Yeah, that's pretty much how a lot of my childhood went, but without the beer, you know? It was more Mountain Dew and pizza and Doritos.
And from the scrappy team nourished by pizza and beer, Halo was born. Obviously, it exploded in popularity. It felt like Halo was the only reason most people bought an Xbox. Microsoft,
Yeah.
of course, loved it, so more money.
Yeah, back in the day, like when I had my Xbox or whatever all hooked up, it was for the most part the Halo machine. Yeah, I have like a couple other games, but the majority of the time, Halo was in that bitch, dude. And it was the green one. I got the green Halo edition Xbox. I still got it.
Money, talent, and resources were just thrown at Bungie to make Halo 2. But even though the team grew in size, the culture was still the same. The Bungie team was passionate about making the best game, and man, they did just that. Halo 2 was released and people lost their minds over it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was national news. With the successful launch of Halo 2, Bungie was on a pedestal and people couldn't wait to see what would come next. 2007 finally rolled around, and if you thought the hype for Halo 2 was big, Halo 3 was even bigger. The multiplayer,
Yeah.
the campaign, and the community were on a whole new level. No! It was the pinnacle of gaming. So
Yeah.
Bungie did it. They had set out to create some of the best games of our era and were ready to throw in the towel after Halo 3. The studio had achieved what it had set out to do. They were ready to move on.
It was really important to us to end on a high note with Halo 3.
But of course, Microsoft couldn't let that happen.
Nope.
Halo was the golden goose, and they weren't done with it. So Bungie was asked to create one more Halo game before leaving Microsoft, and that game was Halo Reach. Halo Reach was a beautiful game. The campaign was emotional, and the Forge was unreal. That said, I don't think Halo Reach was as good as Halo 3. Right? Don't get me wrong. I think it's a phenomenal game. I mean, it made two.
I think that's like a little gatekeepy or whatever. Like, I couldn't really tell much difference between 3 and Reach because the amount of time between 3 and Reach was like, for me at the time, it felt like forever. All right. So I think they were both fine.
$200 million on its launch day. To many, it was peak Halo. However, for me, I believe Halo Reach wasn't made with as much passion as the previous Halos because the team had already told the Halo story they wanted to tell. Players were pretty sad when Bungie moved on from Halo, but excited to see what they would do next. And as
they wanted to tell the story, at least from like the game perspective of like John, you know, Spartan 117, Master Chief, blah, blah, blah. But there were like a lot of books or whatever that kind of preceded all the events of the game. And I think they did an all right job, like with Reach portraying that. So, yeah.
we watched Bungie give its farewell, Microsoft, behind the scenes, handed the Halo mantle to a new studio.
Oh, God.
343. Well, only a year had passed since Reach, and it was announced that Halo 4 would be coming out in 2012. At the time,
I think this was the time where, like, was this when they tried, like, announced, like, Call of Duty was, like, gonna do their, like, year-on-year thing? And then I guess Halo was like, boys, we gotta hurry the fuck up with a new Halo.
most of us didn't think about Halo 4 being made by another developer as being too big of a deal. We were just excited for more Halo. And on launch day, the hype clearly had a big impact on Halo 4 because it made $220 million.
Yep.
Players were eager to continue the story of Master Chief, but something was different. The gameplay was different.
Yeah. So like that 220 million number probably still falls in line with that, like, you know, remember that like World of Warcraft graph where it's like classic, boom, TBC, higher, Wrath of the Lich King, higher, and then what was it, Cataclysm, like and then like midway it was just like drop, like you're dropping off a cliff or whatever. Probably like a day, a week, a month, however long after like Reach came out, like, oh yeah, you sold $228 million of units or whatever, but then the reviews for it
just felt off. I mean, it looked like Halo, but it didn't feel like Halo.
Yeah.
And only after a few months in, players started dropping like flies.
Bro, I never did like this whole broadcasting thing on like that, what was this, the Xbox 360, the one? I don't know, I never did that.
Flocking back to Halo 3 and Reach. At the time, players thought that maybe it was just a fluke. 343 was learning the ropes and got caught up in that Call of Duty hype. Halo 5 will be different. 343 learned their lesson. Halo 5 rolls around and it makes $400 million in its first 24 hours. So people loved it, right? Nope. No co-op campaign, overly aggressive and competitive multiplayer.
I never played Halo 5 Guardians or whatever, but for him to like list off all this stuff is kind of like eye-opening for me. Like, how would you not include like co-op or whatever? What do you say?
Right? Nope. No co-op campaign, overly aggressive and competitive multiplayer.
Overly aggressive and competitive multiplayer. Like, Halo was like one of the best multiplayers. How are you able to fuck that up? Like, for real. Like, how was it overly aggressive and competitive? How do you mess up like all that stuff?
And no content at launch. How can a company screw up so many things that their predecessor...
I mean, but to be fair, no content at launch, what does that mean? Did it launch with a campaign? Did it launch with multiplayer? Did it launch with Forge? I mean, I don't exactly know. I didn't play Halo 5 or whatever, but like, as long as it has those things on launch, I think it's a W or whatever. But like, I mean, if you look back at like the original 3 Halos, like, there wasn't any need for like to be like content at launch because that whole microtransaction thing wasn't a thing back then. So for him to use that as a bullet point, I mean, what do you know, because like if you're comparing it to like Halo 1, 2, and 3, then that's like a stupid bullet point. But if you're trying to like modernize the game for a modern audience, then yeah, that's kind of stupid.
Bungie had already paved the path for it. Players at this point just hoped 343 was going to learn from their mistake.
Are these
They would
bugs?
listen to the community this time and
Thinking
release
those
a
are
game
bugs.
that players really want. Bonnie Ross said 343 will do better and promised there will be a co-op campaign this time. The next Halo will be different.
And I would say for any FPS going out forward, we will always have split screen in going forward.
So to my understanding, that is not true. The lie detector determined that that was a lie.
Well, that wasn't included in launch, and they said it was coming, and now, inexplicably, it has been canceled. Split-screen co-op has been canceled in Halo Infinite.
We have had to make the difficult
It was canceled. How do you just cancel split screen co-op for Halo? Like, so many people have that in their head. And you have like don't you have like a bigger team than like what Bungie left with from like Halo 1, 2, and 3? How are you able to have like more people but still can't deliver like the same things?
decision not to ship campaign split screen co-op and take the resources that we would use on that and go after this list and all these other things that we're going to talk about in just a sec.
Let me see.
We would use on that and go after
Forge beta? Oh, Forge beta wasn't even on launch. So campaign network, co-op, and mission replay. Like Halo Infinite Echo Wars, Halo Infinite Winter Update. So November, March to June. Forge, campaign network, and co-op mission replay. Battle Pass. Oh God, Battle Pass tiers. Oh God, it takes up so much manpower. Detachment and Argyle. What the hell? Oh, new maps. Okay. Match XP beta. Sure. Joint fire event. Oh, you can't even see that. Here, undo this. So this is a Match XP beta. This is a new game mode. Covert 1 flag. Quality of life improvements. Okay, quality of life improvements. I would take people off to, do quality of life stuff. Sure. And then what is this? New maps. More new maps. New maps. New weapon. New equipment. Okay. Content. Content. Okay, that's probably stupid. Content. More battle passes. This is also pretty stupid. New equipment. All right. Content. Custom game browser. Sure. Probably should have been in there on launch, but whatever. In-game reporting. Probably should have been in the game on launch, but whatever. New narrative event. All right. Forge beta updates. Okay. What do you like update with the Forge? I mean, for the most part, besides like a couple things or whatever, this is all like in-game content or whatever. So I don't know.
for this list and all these other things that we're going to talk about in just a sec.
How can a company with 6 years of development, $500 million, make a game with such little content, so many bugs, a garbage progression system, and just be okay to release it? How can 343 screw up this much? It just doesn't make sense. We've heard many answers from the community. 343 didn't earn it. 343 doesn't like Halo. 343 is trying to turn a party game into a competitive game. All valid answers.
So all of that, what I was saying before with like the list or whatever, where'd it go? Like all these things on the list. This was me assuming that there was already like a bunch of different modes in the game, like a standard Halo game should have had. But if Forge wasn't even in the game at the time, and there weren't a lot of modes to begin with, then yeah, he would be right saying that that roadmap sucks ass.
But you would think that if 343 really cared, they would figure out how to make a good Halo game. However, the main reason why 343 just can't make a good Halo game is because something about the
Also, this guy is really sad about how Halo sucks. And how indie games are killing the AAA industry. There's been a lot of reference to Halo, so I feel your pain, man.
company is fundamentally broken. Let's compare 343 to Bungie. So Bungie's entire company culture revolved around making the best game possible. This drove them to make Halo bigger and better each release. 343's focus, on the other hand, revolves around money and how they can make more of it. Every Halo game they release has
Give me more money. Give me more money.
less content and has gotten worse.
Even indie games don't have problems with creating a progression system, yet multiverses and Splitgate just fucking blow Halo Infinite out of the water. You don't even have a progression system.
And you would use Axeman in here too. Axeman fucking loves Halo. This is not so much about how indie games kill AAA as much as give me a good Halo game. And rightly so.
It's easy to see the difference in quality between these two studios, but it's not as easy to see why there's a difference. And this is why 343 doesn't have the capacity to make a good game. The leaders of the company don't put quality of the game first. They put money first. And this culture of money first thinking trickles down to everyone. Even if you are a 343 developer.
Yep, gotta update that store. Gotta get the new skins. Gotta give put that item on sale so there's more likely players will buy that.
That just loves.
Gotta buy the in-game currency so it masks how much real money you're spending, so you just forget about the amount of money you're spending, and as long as you got like the coins or the gems or whatever, you know, you're just like, oh, just give me the skin.
Halo. Any reward as an employee only comes when your work is furthering the goal of making more money, not the best game.
Yes. All the details are.
I love it.
This is the first time.
Oh, so
yeah.
you're really
Oh my
hoping it
god!
That's fantastic.
Sparks!
Now,
stars.
I haven't answered a very important question. Why wouldn't 343 prioritize making the best game? Won't that make you more money as a company? At first glance, this seems obvious. Make a good game, you'll make money, right? Well, kind of. If you make a great game and you have a marketing budget, then sure, you're bound to sell copies. But large AAA companies discovered a way to make more money than ever before without necessarily making a great game. Live service games. You may have noticed that an increasing number of AAA games launched live service games with battle passes and content roadmaps. Why? They make a lot more money after launch day thanks to microtransactions. You no longer just make money when people purchase your game. It's not one and done. You can make money now during its entire lifespan. The developer is inclined to continue supporting the game and its community long after launch. But it doesn't help that 99 out of 100 live service games coming out these days are only that way because executives are rushing out unfinished products, and most of these games just end up in the AAA.
Yep, you can't stop the money machine, you know? Just rush out the new money machine with whatever label it is. You know? Do not stop the money machine. And to be fair, most of the games he's like referencing or using as examples at least is like, these are all like only cosmetics or whatever. Granted, you know, because like a lot of the times, like back in the day when I was playing like multiplayer FPS games of like whatever, the cosmetics in the game, you had to earn them from the game. Now, it's the trend is you just buy cosmetics or whatever, and it is what it is. You want your guy to look cool, you gotta spend real money to make your guy look cool, as opposed to having like good gameplay and learning the game, and you know, more or less forcing yourself to get good at the game to earn the cosmetic. So, you know, gamers are so stupid now. They can't see that. You know, they don't care that, you know, they're just gonna just drop money on the next new big game. I gotta buy the battle pass. I gotta buy the first 25 tiers because it's gonna put me ahead of everyone else. Oh, there's a sale. Let me get all those legendary skins, man. It's like, it's just cosmetics. It's so stupid. Nobody cares about your gold fucking like diamond out fucking like skin that you bought. Nobody cares. You're not flexing on anybody. You have it, and guess what? That guy has it because he bought it. That guy has it because he bought it. That guy has it because he bought it. You're all the same.
A graveyard next to Anthem. Still, there are a few games that have found long-term success with this model. League of Legends, World of Warcraft, Destiny 2, but I would argue that the success of these live service games have hindered the creation of sequels long overdue. It's been 20 years since Warcraft 3 came out. 20 years. Where in the world is Warcraft 4? The reason Blizzard has
Where is Warcraft 4? Bro, there's no way they're making Warcraft 4, dude. RTS is like in the dirt right now. Like who's like I'm pretty sure there's like some people playing RTS, but like granted I don't play RTS or anything like that, but like how is the RTS scene? Would it even be worth it for them to even make a Warcraft 4?
hasn't made it yet, despite Warcraft 3 being so successful, is because they haven't figured out how to make it a live service.
Yet. Haven't figured out how to make it a live service yet. All right? Keyword, yet.
So here we sit in 2022, having watched our favorite IPs disappear or just be bastardized by the companies we once revered. What do we do now? For every bad AAA game released,
you just eat it, man. You eat it. That's all you can do.
10 great indie games are released simultaneously. I mean, why is the Untitled Goose Game the best stealth game I've ever played?
My boo! Hey! I'll just take this.
Why is Hollow Knight, with its dreary atmosphere and tight gameplay,
Is Untitled Goose Game supposed to be a stealth game? I had no idea. I kind of want to play it now.
the best Metroidvania? And why is a roguelite indie game about escaping hell over and over sound simple, but play just so perfectly?
Yeah.
It's not because these indie developers are the most talented or have oodles of cash on hand. It's because they did one thing and one thing only. They followed the fun. That game about escaping hell over and over is the breakout phenomenon Hades. And I can't think of a game or a game studio more focused than them on following the fun. Why? Because Supergiant Games spent 2 years with Hades in early access, making sure every detail of the game was what the community wanted. 2 years. I know you hear early access and like live service, you imagine all the train wrecks over the years.
Yeah.
But Hades and Supergiant did it right. Hades creative director Greg Kasavin said this about its 2-year early access. With Hades, we identified that we wanted to make an early access game first and foremost to see what we could build in partnership with our community. So the plan was to do early access from the get-go. Supergiant wanted Hades to be in the hands of
And you know, early access games are either hit or miss. They're always going to be a gamble. You know, and that's fine.
the community. Not for the quick buck like these other games, but because Supergiant wanted to build a fun game that the community would love. This culture, this mentality of following the fun is what sets apart Supergiant Games and a variety of other indie studios from AAA. Us gamers really only want one thing, to play a fun game, alone or with our buddies.
Yeah, just make the game fun. Make the game good. If game not good, me no play game.
And indie studios really understand this concept because they're gamers too. Indie studios these days are reminiscent of Tomohiro or the original Bungie team. Solo or small team developers who are focused on building something they or the community actually want to play. We seem to have come full circle. Yes, new tools have made it easier than ever to make games, and yes, Steam has made publishing games incredibly simple. But that's not the main reason we are entering the golden age of indie games. If it was, the 100th Minecraft copycat would be rolling in money right now. The reason why indie studios are dominating the video game industry is because indie studios have what AAA studios don't have: the right culture and a desire to follow the fun.
No matter what, that's who Bungie is. We're always going to make what we want to make, and we're going to make it a game that we want to play.
Dang. That was a really good video. I like that. Oh my god. I want to see more. Oh my god. It was kind of funny because like most of the video was just like shitting on Halo, or like modern Halo anyway. But you know, you kind of tied it up and brought it back at the end. You had me in the first half. But yeah, 100% agree, man. Like, let me see, what is this? AAA killed itself. Indie games just nailed their coffin. Yeah, that's pretty true. Yeah, because a lot of the like modern AAA games, they are too big to fail. Meaning, it's nearly impossible for them to like make a failed game. Like they just can't. Like not. It's like there's too many barriers in like hats and things and people, through the line, like this stuff. I was gonna say like place tested and whatever, but like with like Redfall that just came out like not too long ago, we know that's not true. But yeah, AAA pretty much killed itself. I mean, but that's not to say AAA is like horrible. There are a lot of great AAA games. That's why they are AAA. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have anything else to say besides good video, man. Keep it up, and I want to see more. All right, later.